September 1st, 1939, before dawn, across the Polish border, the world held its breath as a new, terrifying form of warfare was unleashed. This wasn't the slow, grinding attrition of the First World War. This was Blitzkrieg, lightning war, a doctrine conceived to shatter enemy defenses with unprecedented speed and synchronized power. It fundamentally reshaped the landscape of modern warfare in its very first demonstration. At its core, Blitzkrieg was a blueprint for a rapid, decisive victory achieved through the coordinated application of mechanized ground forces and overwhelming air power. The German High Command, particularly figures like Heinz Guderian, had meticulously developed a strategy that defied conventional military wisdom. Instead of dispersing tanks to support infantry along a broad front, they concentrated their panzer divisions into powerful spearhead formations designed for deep penetration. These armored thrusts wouldn't stop to consolidate gains. Their objective was to bypass enemy strong points, sever communication lines, and sow chaos deep within the enemy's rear, paralyzing their ability to react. Crucial to this revolutionary approach was the innovative use of air power. The Luftwaffe, Germany's air force, was not merely a supporting arm, but an integral part of the Blitzkrieg machine. Dive bombers, particularly the notorious Junkers Ju-87 Stuka, became flying artillery, providing pinpoint close air support for advancing ground troops. Their siren, the Jericho trumpet, was as much a psychological weapon as their bombs were destructive, spreading terror and demoralizing defers even before the tanks arrived. Simultaneously, fighter aircraft ensured air superiority, protecting the ground forces from enemy air attacks and preventing any organized aerial resistance. This combined air-ground assault was orchestrated with remarkable precision, facilitated by advanced radio communications that allowed immediate adjustments to rapidly evolving battlefield situations. The Polish campaign in September 1939 served as a stark, brutal proof of concept. Within weeks, the Polish army, though fighting valiantly, was overwhelmed and encircled by these fast-moving integrated forces. But it was the campaign in the West in May and June of 1940 that truly showcased the terrifying effectiveness and disruptive potential of Blitzkrieg. Against France, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg, the German panzers, spearheaded through the Ardennes Forester region considered impassable by Allied commanders, bypassed the formidable Maginot Line. They raced to the English Channel, encircling vast Allied armies in a stunning display of strategic maneuver. The speed of the German advance was so rapid that it often outpaced their own supply lines, yet it completely shattered the Allied command structure and their ability to mount a coherent defense. This early period, from 1939 to 1941, saw the German military transform theoretical concepts into devastating reality. Blitzkrieg demonstrated that mobility, surprise, and the relentless application of combined arms could re-raise static defenses and traditional linear warfare doctrines obsolete. It forced every other major power to re-evaluate their own military strategies, accelerating the development of their own mechanized forces and tactical air support. The lessons from these early front lines weren't just about winning battles. They were about a fundamental paradigm shift in how wars would be fought from that moment forward. May 4th, 1942, off the coast of New Guinea, the roar of aircraft engines marked a seismic shift in naval doctrine, irrevocably changing the face of war at sea. The Battle of the Coral Sea wasn't just another engagement. It was the first naval battle in history where the opposing fleets never saw each other, their deadly duel fought entirely by carrier-borne aircraft. This single event, quickly followed by the decisive Battle of Midway a month later, solidified the aircraft carrier, not the battleship, as the new capital ship. It demonstrated that air power projected hundreds of miles from a mobile floating airfield was the ultimate arbiter of naval supremacy. The ability to launch and recover dozens of dive bombers, torpedo planes, and fighters demanded not only new ship designs, but also a new breed of highly skilled pilots, complex command and control systems, and a complete rethinking of fleet tactics. Naval warfare was no longer about broadsides and armor. It was about reconnaissance, timing, and overwhelming air superiority. But carrier warfare, particularly across the colossal distances of the Pacific, exposed an equally profound truth. Modern war was a logistical beast. Sustaining these highly complex, ravenously hungry carrier task forces, along with the millions of ground troops fighting on distant islands or desolate desert fronts, required an infrastructure of unparalleled scale. From the oil to fuel ships and planes to the ammunition, for every rifle, the spare parts for every engine, and the food for every soldier. Everything had to be transported across oceans through hostile waters and delivered to remote, often undeveloped locations. This era saw the rapid invention and deployment of pontoon harbors, portable airfields, and an unprecedented expansion of merchant shipping fleets. Most notably, the American Liberty ships churned out at an astonishing rate. Logistics became as vital as strategy, determining not just the pace of campaigns but their very feasibility. Nations learned that without the capacity to move men and materiel, even the most brilliant tactical plans were doomed to fail. This immense logistical challenge, in turn, highlighted the third, and perhaps most defining, characteristic of warfare in 1942 and 1943, industrial mobilization. The scale of the global conflict demanded a total reorientation of national economies. Factories that once produced cars now built tanks. Refrigerator plants assembled aircraft wings. Consumer goods lines were converted to manufacture everything from machine guns to medical supplies. The United States, in particular, transformed into the arsenal of democracy, producing an unimaginable volume of war material. Its shipyards launched a new vessel every day. Its aircraft factories delivered tens of thousands of planes, and its ammunition plants worked around the clock. This wasn't just about outfitting armies. It was about outproducing the enemy, ensuring a relentless, overwhelming supply of resources that could absorb losses and sustain protracted global campaigns. Women entered the workforce in unprecedented numbers, filling roles previously reserved for men, becoming indispensable to this industrial war machine. The combined rise of carrier warfare, global logistics, and industrial mobilization during these pivotal years forged the bedrock of modern military power. It proved that victory was no longer solely about heroism on the battlefield, but equally about the relentless efficiency of the production line, the intricate dance of supply convoys, and the reach of air power. These intertwined forces transformed warfare from a localized contest of arms into a global struggle of industrial might, technological innovation, and logistical endurance. The lessons learned from the vast distances of the Pacific and the logistical nightmare of fighting across continents shaped the design of navies, the planning of campaigns, and the very structure of national economies for decades to come, leaving an indelible mark on how humanity would thenceforth conceive of and wage war. January 14, 1945, over the Ruhr Valley, Allied bomber streams converged, a meticulously choreographed aerial ballet that signified far more than just another raid. This was the embodiment of a new form of warfare, where the battlefield transcended mere front lines and became a vast, interconnected web of land, sea, and air operations, all moving with synchronized purpose. By 1944 and 1945, the major powers had transformed the art of war, moving beyond localized skirmishes to orchestrate vast campaigns through advanced joint force coordination, unparalleled intelligence gathering, and the relentless application of strategic bombing. The concept of a synchronized battlefield, where distinct military branches operated as a single coherent force, came of age in these final, brutal years. On the ground, close air support perfected in the skies over Normandy, and during the Battle of the Bulge, saw fighter bombers responding in minutes to calls from forward air controllers, savaging enemy armor and strongpoints just meters ahead of advancing infantry. In the Pacific, amphibious assaults became symphonies of destruction and precision, with naval gunfire meticulously shelling beach defenses while carrier-based aircraft provided air cover and strafed enemy positions, all timed to the precise moment the landing craft hit the sand. Commanders and combined headquarters held a holistic view, using sophisticated communication networks to direct assets across theaters, adjusting plans in real time. This wasn't merely cooperation, it was true integration, a shared tactical and strategic consciousness. Crucial to this synchronization was an intelligence apparatus unprecedented in scope and capability. The breakthroughs in code breaking, particularly with Ultra for German communications and Magic for Japanese, provided Allied strategists with invaluable insights into enemy intentions, troop movements, and logistical vulnerabilities. Commanders could often read German high command directives almost as quickly as Hitler himself. But intelligence went far beyond decrypted messages. Aerial reconnaissance planes meticulously photographed enemy installations, factories, and railway lines, their images interpreted by thousands of specialists to identify critical targets. Resistance networks behind enemy lines funneled vital tactical information, while ground patrols and naval reconnaissance missions painted a detailed picture of the immediate threat. This torrent of information, analyzed and disseminated with increasing speed, allowed for proactive planning, preemptive strikes, and the identification of weak points to exploit, turning intelligence from a reactive tool into a proactive weapon. Hand in hand with this intelligence, and often its direct beneficiary, was the escalating campaign of strategic bombing. By 1944, the daylight precision bombing efforts of the U.S. Army Air Forces and the nighttime area bombing of the RAF had reached a devastating crescendo. Oil refineries, ball-bearing factories, transportation hubs, and entire industrial centers became priority targets, chosen with surgical precision thanks to intelligence. The intent was not just to destroy, but to systematically dismantle the enemy's capacity to wage war, choking off their fuel supply, halting their arms production, and disrupting their logistical lifelines. The firebombing of German and Japanese cities in 1945, while controversial then and now, were products of this strategy, aimed at breaking enemy will and infrastructure simultaneously. These massive aerial assaults were not isolated acts. They were integral components of the broader, synchronized war effort, designed to pave the way for ground offensives and accelerate collapse. The convergence of joint force operations, sophisticated intelligence, and strategic bombing created the synergy that fundamentally reshaped military doctrine. It demonstrated that victory in modern conflict demanded not only superior firepower but also the ability to integrate diverse assets into a single, overwhelming force. The lessons were stark. Air superiority became a prerequisite for any significant land or sea operation. Intelligence, once an adjunct, became the nervous system of the war machine, guiding every decision from the strategic heights to the tactical trenches. The legacy of these synchronized battlefields yours, deeply embedding the principles of combined arms warfare into the core of military thought and organization. Every modern military operation, from peacekeeping to large-scale intervention, draws directly from the foundations laid in those harrowing years. The pursuit of seamless integration, the insatiable hunger for actionable intelligence, and the devastating potential of air power became the enduring pillars of post-war military strategy, a sobering testament to the relentless human drive to understand, control, and ultimately dominate the destructive chaos of war. Today, August 15, 2023, in the quiet contemplation of military historians and strategists worldwide, a profound truth echoes through the decades. World War II wasn't merely a chapter in history. It was the brutal, unforgiving forge from which modern warfare was hammered into existence. The principles forged in the cauldron of Stalingrad, the beaches of Normandy, and the skies over London are not outdated relics. They are the bedrock upon which every contemporary military doctrine is built. The seamless integration of air, land, and sea assets. The logistical arteries indispensable for sustaining operations, the insatiable pursuit of actionable intelligence, and the critical importance of secure, rapid communication. These aren't innovations of recent conflicts. They are the refined, iterated lessons etched into the very DNA of military thought by the relentless pressures of a global war. Every modern military operation, from peacekeeping to large-scale intervention, draws directly from the foundations laid in those harrowing years. Hand in hand with doctrine came technology, accelerated by an urgency that defied previous human imagination. The war sprinted humanity from propeller aircraft to jet engines, from rudimentary radar to complex electronic warfare, from mechanical calculators to the nascent stages of digital computing. The atomic bomb, a stark, terrifying culmination of scientific gavor, didn't just a war. It permanently altered the stakes of all future conflicts, introducing the chilling concept of mutually assured destruction. From the V-2 rocket to intercontinental ballistic missiles, from early guided munitions to precision-guided smart bombs, the relentless drive for technological superiority, born of wartime necessity, remains the engine of defense innovation. Every drone buzzing above a modern battlefield, every encrypted satellite communication, every digital network orchestrating a complex operation traces its lineage back to the desperate, brilliant breakthroughs of the 1940s. The pursuit of seamless integration, the insatiable hunger for actionable intelligence, and the devastating potential of air power became the enduring pillars of post-war military strategy, a sobering testament to the relentless human drive to understand, control, and ultimately dominate the destructive chaos of war. Beyond the battlefield, World War II dramatically reshaped the very architecture of global strategy and international relations. The United Nations emerged from the ashes, an imperfect but vital attempt to prevent future catastrophes. Alliances like NATO and the Warsaw Pact, born of the post-war ideological struggle, defined decades of geopolitical maneuvering. The entire concept of collective security, of international law, and even the nuances of humanitarian intervention found their imperative in the lessons of widespread destruction and human rights atrocities. The Cold War, with its proxy conflicts and nuclear brinkmanship, was a direct progeny of World War II's unresolved tensions and the terrifying new technologies it unleashed. Even today, the global balance of power, the structure of international institutions, and the enduring debate over intervention versus sovereignty are all deeply imprinted with the scars and strategies of that epochal struggle. The enduring echo of World War II is therefore not just a historical curiosity, it is a living, breathing testament to humanity's capacity for both unparalleled destruction and remarkable innovation. It is a constant reminder that while the tools of war evolve with terrifying speed, the fundamental challenges of strategy, leadership, and logistics remain profoundly human. The ultimate paradox persists. We study the mechanics of mass destruction, not to glorify war, but often in the desperate hope of understanding and thereby preventing it. We dissect its tactics, analyze its technologies, and learn from its sacrifices, forever burdened by the knowledge of what humanity is capable of, both in its darkest hour and in its most brilliant, if terrifying, moments of ingenuity. The legacy of World War II is thus an inescapable shadow, long and complex, reminding us that the lessons learned from those front lines continue to shape our present and will undoubtedly define our future. It is a somber whisper across the generations. While the guns may fall silent, the echoes of war's profound education reverberate eternally, demanding our vigilance, our wisdom, and our unwavering commitment to peace.